What's happening?
How's it going?
Good.
How's your Comic-Con been so far? Yeah?
I'm sure it's insane. How's it going? I've never been to Comic-Con before, so this is a very overwhelming experience.
First time, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
What about you?
First time, yeah.
Oh, man.
Very excited.
A lot of excitement around the show and stuff as well, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're in the middle of production right now, and so we're sort of like in the thick of it. So it feels like a little premature to be coming and like having our coming out party, but it's really fun. It's really fun to be here.
That's cool. Do you have to leave here and go immediately back?
I'm flying back to Boston tonight, so we're shooting in Massachusetts. I think we're the first drama to shoot in Massachusetts since like Spencer for Hire or something like that. So, which is very, very cool. So I'm going to be on a plane pretty soon. Yeah, exactly. Massachusetts for Maine. There's not a lot of like crew base in Maine, so but it looks great in Massachusetts, and yeah. So.
Assuming viewers would be able to tell if you were trying to put in like Vancouver for.
Yeah.
Yes, I will tell you, we considered it. Vancouver's beautiful, but it's not New England. Yeah.
So what are you most excited for fans to see about the series? I mean, you're still kind of in the middle of it, so I guess it's a little bit early right now.
Yeah.
Is there anything so far that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're putting out the first trailer today and this sort of first look teaser, and I think it'll give people a sense of what the feel of the show really is. And I think for us, we sort of come to this as Stephen King super fans, and that's where this all started, and so the chance to kind of play in the universe that he created, that he started writing about 40 years ago, and this kind of interconnected series of relationships among all the books and all the characters in all the books, like getting to write a show and to play with that on that field is just amazing.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting. And then the other thing for us is that like we love the genre. We're horror fans, but there's something very particular, I think, about Stephen King and the Stephen King library that doesn't always get captured when he's adapted. He's a real psychological writer and a really deep character writer, and so like, yes, there is often a monster, and yes, the characters have to grapple with evil, and often evil is conquered by the end of a story, but you sort of along the way get this unsettling sense that like the true monster may be the alcoholic parent or the spouse that you're lying down next to at night, who you don't really know the way you thought you knew her or him, and so having this canvas to tell a story over 10 hours, I think, has given us the ability to try to explore some aspects of Stephen King's style and Stephen King's kind of world that don't always get adapted, like within the confines of a 90-minute movie.
Is it ever overwhelming with the amount of material that's out there, and do you guys have like free reign to kind of use whatever you want, or are there some sort of limitations on like the stories or characters you can use? Or
Stephen has been incredibly generous with sort of allowing us to play with this enormous library of his, and so of course there are some confines that we're sort of working within, but I think it's actually been really amazing because every time we have thought, it would be so amazing to be able to include this character in the show, or to be able to include this location in the show. Every time we ask and we think we're going to get denied, and we have really never gotten denied yet. And so it's really been, that part of the process has been terrific.
Yeah, it's been amazing. One thing that you'll see in the teaser, I guess we can talk about this, right? Because the teaser's about to, or whatever. So,
let's talk.
So,
here we are.
So Shawshank Prison plays a really important role in this season of storytelling, and when we started developing the story, which is an original story that ropes in a lot of kind of themes and ideas and characters and landmarks and brushes up against a lot of stories that Stephen King fans, I think, know and love. But there's a really important aspect of it that involved a prison, and so we started writing, and we were sort of inventing a new fictitious prison. At some point, it was like we were a few days into it, and we were like, like we can't actually set this story at Shawshank Prison, can we? And so they picked up the phone and we're like, are we allowed to commit you know? It's a very, like, when you, like a lot of people, that movie and the novella that it's based on, like, means a huge amount to both of us. And so to be able to, like, open up Final Draft and type, like, interior Shawshank Prison day is, like, it's a pretty cool thing to have license to do.
Which other sort of the books can you tell us about that you do lean on for this first season?
Well, so Shawshank is definitely, from a setting perspective, something that we are tapping into. And then the other, another sort of very big component of this season, there's a character, this Kingian character, this sheriff named Alan Pangborn, who's being played by Scott Glenn. And he was kind of the sheriff of the town during some of the darkest periods of Castle Rock's history. In the book Needful Things, The Dark Half. So we're sort of embracing his reign as sheriff as part of the lore of our first season.
It's been very cool to sort of imagine this character who's sort of like on the Mount Rushmore of Stephen King protagonists at sort of a different moment in his life. It's sort of like a little bit like Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men is sort of the Lion in Winter, looking back on a career and a life in this very particular bad luck town. Somebody who's kind of he's almost the institutional memory of this town, who's seen a lot of darkness over his decades here.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that's been, in a way, the most exciting part of the experience has been to be able to take characters like Alan Pangborn and to brush him up against the original characters that a lot of the actors in this room are playing. You know, to be able to create these new characters that feel essentially Kingian, but that have lives and backstories and things that happen to them that even the fans who have read all the books don't know about. And so to watch those characters intersecting with characters like Pangborn and others has been amazing, because it's like Stephen King is a big hero for both of us, and so to be able to actually create characters who are then crossing in the street or interacting in big ways with his characters is really special.
How would you describe the tone of this show? We don't know that much about.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that this first look teaser will convey something of the spirit of it. But you know, for us, the adaptations that we like revere and love, a lot of them they sort of like harken back to the late '70s and early '80s. It's the like Kubrick, Cronenberg, De Palma moment. You know, it's sort of I don't know how to characterize them except to say they really occupy the realm of psychological horror. So you know, there are tidal waves of blood, but again, the true horror in The Shining, at some level, I think, is this. At least I say this as a parent of young children now. Is this sort of idea that that a parent might be capable of wanting to harm his own child, or that you might be, you know, married to a guy who is capable of harming your son, so but that mood, this sort of like deep psychological horror of The Shining and The Dead Zone, and that's sort of like the palette that we're playing with. At the same time, you know, Stephen King's a really funny writer as well, you know, and so it was important to us not to create a world that is so unremittingly dark that it doesn't create room for character storytelling that is funny and absurd too. I mean, when you think about it, the idea of this town that has been on the wrong end of like a century-long biblical onslaught of terrors and nightmares, and the two serial killers and the rabid dog and the demonic homicidal truck, you know, why is anyone still living in this town? You know, it's sort of an absurd and kind of a fascinating, from a writing standpoint, a really fascinating exercise to try to imagine what life would really be like in a town like Castle Rock. And so Melanie Linsky plays this character Molly Strand, who's a real estate agent in this town. So as you can imagine, like, it's a particularly like Sisyphean task as a real estate agent to be trying to put a happy face on houses where like every third place on the block was the site of someone's worst nightmare. And so sort of embracing the sort of comedy of Stephen King and the sort of humanity of Stephen King was sort of part of the project too.
Did that kind of help you guys like pick and choose who you brought into the writers' room, as far as like some people may be better with some levity and like some other horror?
I do all the comedy.
Yeah,
that's your job?
Exactly. No, his job is just to sit there and look dashing all the time. No, it's funny. It's like you put together a writer's room, and it's a little bit like assembling your own Avengers team. You hope that different people bring a different point of view to the material, and so we had writers on our staff who are the real custodians of the genre aspect, the real rabid horror fans, and then writers who are great, crack comedy writers, and
I think it's true of actors too, which is Melanie, for example, is an amazing comic actor, and so she's able to bring like that depth and the fear and the depth of character that we're looking for, but at the same time is really funny, and so that I think really affected casting as well.
Are there any sort of Easter eggs you can tell us about for like the big Kingian fans out there?
There are a ton of Easter eggs in this show, and I'm trying to think of what we can talk about and what we can't talk about. What I can tell you is that, like, in our writing staff too, there's sort of a gamut of like really obsessive, die-hard, strict constructionist. Like, this is what the chain of events and the chronology of the books was, and if we deviate from it, like, we're heretics. To people who came to the material and like were casual Stephen King readers, but not like deep super fans. And I think and hope we've constructed a story where it'll be a fun and rewarding experience for viewers from all over that spectrum. So like there are some really, really deep cut references and winks that even occasionally like we as the showrunners won't catch, and a writer will be like, "Did you get that really deep cut reference to Beach World, the story from?" We'll be like, completely went over my head. And then there are characters who sort of wend their way through the story, and some surprise appearances by some Stephen King favorites that I think that everybody will know and be kind of
guys, that's all we
excited
have
about.
time for. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Hey, thank you guys so much.